Good afternoon, good evening all, it's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, A Box with No Lid. A channel I'm creating not just to bring the awareness around the lived reality of trauma, but I really want to get into the understandings that I've learned over so many decades of being around this stuff to open the pathways and understandings to truly heal. Now, this is the next video in the adoption series. And I want to go back into an area that I've spoken about with the fog and that before. But I want to look at it in a different, slightly different perspective. Because where I'm coming from in this video is the ability to articulate. When you're looking at early childhood and preverbal trauma, because of removal and how it plays out, especially the younger you are, the more embedded this response is. It is something that's done to us, not with us. We didn't participate in the decisions to be removed. Therefore, it is something done to us. And every part of our entire physiology feels that it is something being done to us. We don't understand what is happening and what is going on. There very rarely is any explanations. Adults don't attempt to explain anything they can't explain to an adult, to a kid or an infant. All those explanations are so vague that they don't address what we're trying to articulate. And one of the most challenging aspects of infant and young childhood trauma is we try to articulate our fear, our anxiety, our terror, our hurt, and it's ignored. We become embedded as powerless to change what is happening to us. That moment of realization when an infant or a young child goes, I am powerless to change this, a switch is clicked in our development, and our developmental trauma responses revolve around that switch. And as we start into young childhood, moving into adolescence, we have to develop ways of being seen, of being heard, and of being valued, of what, our perspective. And that plays out in multiple facets when you're looking at how teenagers enact out their childhood, or when you look at how adults act out their childhood. And it's one of these things of a core infant response and need, a core feeling, completely shapes our behavior. An infant, when they scream, they want to be picked up and held, depending upon the severity of what's happened. Being picked up and held by a biological parent is quite often the only one that can appease that terror. When you're looking at removal, of course, you're removing an infant or a child from their biological family, so that's not going to happen. They're either going to be placed with, most often they're placed with complete strangers, or when you're looking in the cases of adoption, for infants, you might spend 3 or 4 months, 6 months or 12 months isolated with no actual contact, because until placement happens, if there's court processes or all these different things, that infant is left isolated in a box. This is the name, hence the name of this channel, A Box with No Lid. That crib becomes the reality. It becomes a prison. But I digress. The thing of it is that appeasement of being able to change or engage with or be paid attention to whilst going through something becomes such a powerful driving force that it shapes in an adult a need that is very challenging to appease. Now I see this need tear apart like-minded or similar experience organizations all the time. You see it happen everywhere. You look, I've seen it tear apart adoptee groups, foster care groups, indigenous groups, domestic violence groups, all these people that have had similar experiences. This need to articulate and be heard, it just creates this fever of voice and of volume, and because it's such a purely driven need from such a hardcore trauma base, and because it is so young, We go into a trauma response. We're going into fight. Cognitive brain shuts down. And that's why the arguments that get put forward steadily lose any form of sense. But the need for that understanding is still there. Now, we see people getting on podiums and microphones at protests, screaming to the point of lunacy. That's an expression of that trauma response. That infant need to be able to articulate what is happening, fed into an adult physiology, seeking to control the world the way they need it to be seen and to be heard and to be valued. The more we step into it, the more we will step into fight or flight. And again, once we step into a trauma response, cognitive brain shuts down, and it feeds this cycle that ultimately leads to our isolation. The reason I'm making this video is not so much about, the tearing apart of groups, but what I see this play out in the really hard areas that hurt is I watch it tear apart good people's relationships all the time. I know, and I've been around, I'm an adoptee, I've been around this stuff for a very long time, and I see it play out. I also come from an indigenous background. I see it play out. I see the point and the potential of healing completely missed all the time. And it is missed because this argument of I need to be seen, that has to be appeased. And the thing of it is when you're looking at preverbal and early childhood, that inability to articulate, the need that creates. Because when the younger children's responses are, when you're looking at preverbal and very early childhood, they are so pure. They encompass the entire infant's reality. Now you take that need and you try to put it into an adult world, an adult construct. The entire planet needs to change and turn around and recognize that infant need in that adult for it to be appeased. It is never going to happen. It is literally that degree, as ridiculous as that sounds, it is literally that degree it's the only way that appeasement will be met in that form. Because in an infant, it is their entire world that needs to stop and look at them, listen to them, pick them up, hold them, and make them feel safe. In an adult, it is the entire world. In the adult understanding, our entire world needs to stop, look at us, pick us up, hold us, and make us feel safe. Not going to happen. So we need to grow that understanding up from, okay, as an infant it is this small and this pure. How do I add the complexities of an adult reality to piece by piece build the puzzle of an ecology that will start to appease that need of articulation? The first step is learning the vocabulary. Now, I've done videos on this earlier in this channel, of learning the vocabulary, of learning the ability to explain how you feel to where somebody you know or care about understands you, where you get that you get that feeling of, I know they get it. That aha moment, I know they get it, they see me. It is creating and growing those experiences up and developing the skills to take it out to people that are more strangers to you, work colleagues, and people you engage with not in such a personal way. And to create the ability to grow all these layers of acknowledgement, to add the adult complexity, to start to appease an infant's need, an infant's trauma need, to develop the skill sets to negotiate with that core trauma base and start to release, heal it, but also develop the skill sets as you're releasing and healing it to re-engage with the world and heal your relationships. It is difficult because, as I said, when this is tripped, when our inability to articulate what we're feeling, within a fraction of a second we start to go into fight or flight when it is triggered. And that need to be able to articulate it grows and the frustration grows with it very, very quickly. We need to go, it's not my fault I'm not explaining it correctly. It's not their fault they're not getting it. It's developing and learning the articulation between the two of you to where you can speak the same language to be able to articulate it, to where this to and froing, this titration and understanding can grow. And that's a skill set. That's a skill set that takes a while to develop. This is a big one, and it is a difficult one. I will, as I go along, do more videos and start going back into some of the areas that I've talked to before and put it in other perspectives, or add to the perspectives of those other videos, because I'm trying to grow an ecology of knowledge that covers such a broad area of interpretation and understanding. But as always, I love you guys' comments and feedback. Please be mindful, please be safe, and I'll see you all next time. Hope.